What would you do if a room full of millionaires laughed in your face only to find out minutes later you owned everything they were fighting for? 17-year-old Maya Jefferson walked into a luxury law office wearing nothing but thrift store clothes and quiet dignity. The heirs of a billion-dollar empire mocked her like she was invisible. One even asked if she was the janitor. But they had no idea. She wasn't there to clean up after them. She was there to take the throne. In the next few minutes, secrets will unravel, legacies will crumble, and the most powerful family in the city will learn what happens when you underestimate the wrong girl. This isn't just a story about inheritance. It's about justice, reclamation, and a revolution that started in silence. If you're ready to witness how a girl once called the maid's daughter dismantled generations of privilege with nothing but truth, stay tuned. Drop your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to Colorline Stories now, and don't forget to like if this story makes you feel something deep. Because what you're about to see changes everything. The silence in the law office was razor thin as Maya Jefferson stepped through the glass doors. At only 17, her presence alone seemed to disturb the balance of the room. Her brown skin, natural coils pulled back into a neat bun, and the modest blouse and jeans she wore stood out sharply against the sharp suits and luxury dresses surrounding her. From the moment she walked in, every glance was an accusation. She didn't belong here, at least not in their eyes. Who let the janitor into the will reading? Sneered Logan Whitmore, nephew of the late industrial magnate Richard Whitmore, his voice just loud enough for the room to hear. Suppressed chuckles followed, echoing against the polished oak walls. Maya remained silent, her gaze locked on the only empty chair in the circle position directly across from the lawyer's desk. It wasn't fear that froze her. It was the suffocating weight of years of being seen as less. Marla Whitmore, Logan's aunt, draped in designer silk and shimmering diamonds, didn't even try to hide her scorn. It's probably one of Richard's little charity projects. She must be here to beg for a donation, she muttered, lifting her phone like she was too bored to continue speaking. Maya took a long, slow breath. The room was heavy with inherited privilege. Every framed photograph on the walls, corporate accolades, exotic travel pictures, awards for philanthropy screamed of a family empire built over decades. And yet, she knew they saw her as nothing more than an intruder. "She's lost," said Trevor Whitmore, the eldest son, adjusting the cuffs of his Italian suit. "Someone escort her out before Mr. Daniels arrives. This is just embarrassing." No one noticed the faint flicker of a smile that crossed Maya's lips at that moment. She wasn't lost. She was exactly where she was supposed to be. The doors opened quietly as Howard Daniels, the Whitmore family's lawyer for over 30 years, stepped in. In his hand, he carried a weathered leather briefcase. His lined face was unreadable, his posture as upright as ever. He greeted each member of the Whitmore family with a curt nod, respectful, but cool. And then he turned to Maya. "Miss Jefferson," he said, gesturing to the empty chair. "Right here, please." Gasps filled the room like a wave crashing against a shoreline. Logan nearly dropped his champagne glass. Marla gripped her handbag so tightly that her knuckles turned white. "Excuse me, Daniels," Trevor interrupted, already bristling. "Do you know this girl?" The lawyer's expression didn't change. "Yes," he replied. "And you should too." He scanned the bewildered faces in front of him before continuing. "This is Maya Jefferson, daughter of Angela Jefferson. She's been working in this house since she was 12, helping her mother clean on weekends." "The maid's daughter?" Marla spat the words like venom. "What is she doing at a private family will reading?" Maya took her seat at last, her back straight, her eyes calm, her spirit unshaken. Let them speak. Let them stare. She had promised herself no matter what happened in that room, she would not shed a single tear. Not after everything she had been through. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Maya sat motionless, every eye on her, most of them narrowed in judgment. She was still the maid's daughter in their eyes, an unwanted guest trespassing into their sanctuary of inherited wealth. But the expression on Howard Daniels' face remained unreadable as he unlatched his leather briefcase with slow, deliberate motions. "We are gathered here for the reading of the final will and testament of Mr. Richard Whitmore," Daniels began, his voice formal but calm. "He passed 3 weeks ago after a lengthy illness." The room remained quiet, though Sabrina Whitmore, Trevor's younger sister, took the opportunity to discreetly lift her phone and snap a photo of Maya. tilting the screen away from view. Her perfectly manicured fingers typed furiously, "Imposter at the will. The maid's kid is here, trying to scam a fortune." The post went live in seconds, racking up reactions almost instantly. Meanwhile, Logan leaned over to whisper to Chase, another cousin, smirking as he said, $10 says my uncle left her $5,000 as a charity stunt. Maybe a used car. Tops. But Maya didn't flinch. She wasn't watching them. Her eyes were locked on Daniel's hands as he pulled out a thick, sealed envelope. She knew what was coming. She had prepared for this moment in silence, with dignity, while they all scoffed. Daniels cleared his throat. "Before we proceed with the will, Mr. Whitmore left behind a personal video message. He asked that it be played before anything official is read." Trevor rolled his eyes, already exasperated. "Another one of Dad's morality plays," he muttered. "Let's just get this over with." The lawyer ignored him and pressed a button on a remote. A large screen at the front of the room flickered to life. The image was slightly grainy, but clearly showed Richard Whitmore, visibly thinner and pale from the illness, sitting in a chair with sunlight filtering through the window behind him. "If you're watching this," Richard began, his voice gravelly but firm, "then I've passed on. And I imagine all of you are eager to know how I've divided the estate." He paused, eyes seeming to peer into the room from beyond the grave. "But first, I have a question," he continued. "Can any of you tell me the name of Angela Jefferson's daughter?" A thick silence descended. Trevor blinked. Logan scratched the back of his neck. Marla feigned interest in her nails. "I figured as much," Richard said, shaking his head. "That girl has worked in our home for years. Since she was 12. Helping her mother clean your rooms, your messes. And not one of you ever cared to learn her name." Maya's chest tightened. She felt something rise in her throat, but she kept her jaw locked. Richard's voice continued, steady and sharp. "I watched the way you treated her. The way you treated all the help. As if they were invisible. Disposable. And that, more than anything else, told me who you really are." For the first time since Maya had entered the room, no one dared to speak. No one was laughing now. The silence after the video was suffocating. Even the gentle hum of the air conditioner seemed deafening in the stillness of the Whitmore Law Office. One by one, the family members shifted in their seats, visibly uncomfortable, though none dared to break the silence that followed Richard's words. Maya sat perfectly still, her face calm, but her heart pounding in her chest like a war drum. Howard Daniels reached for the second envelope, this one slightly thicker. His fingers moved with precision. The air felt heavier with every second. "I will now begin reading the principal terms of Mr. Whitmore's will," he said. Before he could speak further, Logan slammed his glass on the side table. "This is absurd," he barked. "What is this girl even doing here? You can't be serious." Maya finally turned her head to look directly at him, not with anger, but with the calm of someone who had already won the battle before stepping onto the field. Daniels raised a hand, silencing the outburst. Mr. Whitmore's will was drafted in full legal compliance and witnessed under sound mind. If there are objections, they can be filed afterward. Now, if you'll allow me to continue. He cleared his throat. "I, Richard Whitmore, do hereby leave to Maya Jefferson 51% of the shares of Whitmore Enterprises, my primary residence in Easton Ridge, all real estate holdings detailed in Appendix A, and the sum of $20 million in liquid investments." Gasps broke through the tension like gunfire. Trevor leapt to his feet. "You've got to be kidding. She manipulated him. He was sick, he didn't know what he was doing." Daniels remained unmoved. "Everything is legally binding. And there are safeguards. Maya will only take full control when she turns 21. Until then, the company will be managed by a transitional board, co-chaired by myself and Dr. Louisa Evans." The mention of the doctor's name made Marla scoff. What does she have to do with this? As if on cue, the side door opened. A poised black woman in her early 50s stepped into the room. She wore a tailored navy suit, her expression composed and kind. Her eyes found Maya's, and she offered a warm smile. Daniels nodded toward her. Dr. Evans wasn't just Mr. Whitmore's physician. She was also the one who introduced him to Maya after seeing the way she cared for her mother in the hospital. "You see, when Angela Jefferson was diagnosed, Maya stayed by her side every day, even after she lost her weekend job cleaning your houses." Dr. Evans stepped forward. "Angela and I studied nursing together, once upon a time. Life took us down different paths. But when I saw Maya so young, so composed, holding her mother's hand while studying at night, I knew Richard needed to meet her. And just like that, the narrative collapsed. The girl they had mocked, the maid's daughter, wasn't a charity case. She was the chosen heir to an empire and the only one who had earned it through compassion, not entitlement. The room didn't just fall silent. It fell apart. The atmosphere in the room turned volatile. Logan, red-faced and sputtering, stood like he might lunge at the lawyer. Sabrina was frantically trying to delete her social media post, but the damage had already been done. Her humiliating caption about Maya had gone viral, and the comments section had turned against her. Trevor shook his head, muttering about lawsuits and lawyers, but even his voice had lost its bite. Daniels, unbothered, calmly opened another envelope. There is one more video message, but before we play it, I've been instructed to disclose a few more key elements of Mr. Whitmore's estate plan. He paused, letting the room settle into an uneasy quiet. Much of the property listed in Appendix A, he said, is not comprised of luxury homes or penthouses as you might expect. These are, in fact, parcels of land located in Evergreen Heights, a low-income neighborhood on the outskirts of the city. Confusion swept across the room. Marla scoffed. Why on earth would he own land in a slum? Dr. Louisa Evans stepped forward with a digital tablet and pressed a button. An aerial image appeared on the office's screen. Rows of rundown homes with tin roofs and dirt pathways. Because, she answered, this land was purchased by Richard's grandfather 70 years ago. At that time, over 200 families were displaced to make room for the Whitmore family's first shopping center. The records were buried. Until now. The room rippled with indignation and disbelief. Maya stood slowly. Her voice was steady and clear. Those properties now belong to me. And last week, I signed the legal documents transferring them back to the families who live there. Free of charge. The room exploded into chaos. Trevor knocked over his chair. Logan swore under his breath. Patricia, who had been silent until now, covered her face and started crying. You can't do that. Trevor shouted. That's our legacy. No, Maya said firmly. That was stolen legacy. And what's stolen must be returned. Daniels adjusted his glasses, then continued. In addition, Maya's first act as majority shareholder was to implement a reparative compensation program for all former employees who were unfairly terminated over the last decade. Severance packages have already been approved and dispersed. That's corporate suicide. Trevor roared. Years of hard work flushed away because of some emotional stunt. Maya looked directly at him. It's not a stunt. It's reparation. That's what justice looks like when you stop making it about yourself. Dr. Evans activated another screen this time, a live news broadcast. Reporters stood outside the company's main headquarters. Former employees were seen crying, hugging each other as they held letters of reinstatement and compensation checks. This is happening right now, Dr. Evans said quietly. Timed perfectly with this meeting, as Richard planned. You've destroyed us, Marla whispered, her voice cracking. Maya shook her head. No, I haven't destroyed the Whitmore legacy. I've redefined it. The shock hadn't yet faded when Maya Jefferson stepped to the window, overlooking the skyline. Behind her, the room had splintered into chaos. Trevor, veins bulging in his neck, turned to Daniels with clenched fists. She's not qualified to run a Fortune 500 company. In a year, she'll be begging us for help. Maya turned slowly. You're absolutely right, she said. I don't have the experience, which is why I won't be running anything. The confusion thickened. Howard Daniels pressed a button on the wall. The office doors opened smoothly. 5 people walked in, 3 women and 2 men, all dressed in modest, working-class clothing. Their posture was upright, their eyes steady. Meet the new board of directors of Whitmore Enterprises, Maya announced. Gasps. Stares. Trevor looked like he'd been slapped. These are former employees fired unjustly for trying to unionize, for proposing employee equity plans, for suggesting ethics audits. People with decades of field experience, ignored not because of their merit, but because of their place on your social ladder. One of the men stepped forward. His graying hair and humble demeanor belied a sharp intelligence in his eyes. Hello, Mr. Trevor. Remember me? Carlos Evans. 25 years in the finance department until I got fired for proposing a profit-sharing model. This is insanity, Logan shouted. You're putting janitors in charge of a conglomerate? Dr. Louisa Evans, standing by Maya's side, smiled gently. No. We're putting competence and integrity in charge. Something your father spent his final months trying to locate within this family and failed. Trevor staggered back into his chair, pale as parchment. This isn't what my father wanted, he muttered. It's exactly what he wanted, Maya replied softly. He saw through the gloss and the titles. He wanted a legacy that meant something. Just then, Patricia, her eyes rimmed with red, stood shakily. You won't get away with this. I have friends in media. I'll expose this coup. Daniels looked at Maya, who gave him a single nod. He activated the screen again. A video clip played. Patricia, clearly intoxicated, spewed racist insults at a waiter during a private party. The timestamp was recent. The room felt deathly quiet again. I have hundreds of hours of this kind of footage, Maya said calmly. Private conversations. Hidden cameras. My godfather Richard recorded everything. Not for revenge. For truth. Logan, who once radiated arrogance, now looked decades older. What do you want from us? Maya walked forward, eyes steady. I want you to learn. I want you to understand what it feels like to be dismissed, dehumanized, made invisible. I want you to experience life outside your privilege. Carlos stepped forward. We didn't come here to burn it all down. We came to build something better. Dr. Evans handed thick folders to each family member. These are your choices, she said. Contest the will we're prepared. Or accept a transition. Keep your homes, receive monthly stipends, and commit to a one-year social reintegration program. Trevor's voice, for the first time, was nearly a whisper. And if we refuse? Maya didn't blink. Then the videos go public. The lawsuits begin. And your names become synonyms for everything Richard fought to repair. The silence that followed was unlike any before. It wasn't laced with contempt or shock, it was surrender. One by one, the members of the Whitmore family realized they weren't staring at a teenager, they were facing a transformation too big to control. Trevor muttered, almost to himself, this won't last. She's just a girl. This empire will collapse under her. Maya turned to him, not with scorn but with quiet clarity. That's where you're wrong. This empire was never yours to begin with. And it's not mine now. It belongs to those who built it. Brick by brick. Floor by floor. Life by life. She stepped back, gazing out the window at the city below. What the Whitmores didn't yet understand was that this wasn't the climax of her story. It was the spark of a movement. 6 months later, the corporate headquarters of Whitmore Enterprises had been completely transformed. The marble-floored lobby, once adorned with portraits of past CEOs, now featured community murals painted by youth from Evergreen Heights. The ground floor housed a bustling community center that offered free classes in entrepreneurship, coding, and civil rights education. Carlos Evans, now Chief Financial Officer, updated Maya as they walked the hall. Last quarter's revenue is up 12%. Productivity is the highest it's ever been. The employee stock ownership plan? Massive success. Maya smiled, her modest heels clicking softly on the polished tile. And the housing project? Dr. Louisa Evans, now leading the social equity division, joined them. 300 families have received full land deeds. The cooperative businesses on those properties are launching next month. Despite still being in her senior year of high school, Maya spent 4 hours each day managing high-level strategy for the company. She left operations to the board and dedicated the rest of her time to studying on a full scholarship granted by the very foundation she had created. At night, she still came home to care for her mother, Angela Jefferson, now in remission and thriving under proper medical care. Across town, Trevor stood outside a downtown cafe. His tailored suits had long been sold. He wore a plain shirt, his shoes scuffed. He stared at a billboard with the slogan, Whitmore Enterprises, building a fairer future. Beneath it was a photo of Maya flanked by the new diverse board. His phone buzzed. A job alert, administrative assistant, social reintegration program. He stared at it for a long time. Just then, Patricia, walking by with booklets in her hand, stopped. Trevor, she said gently, it's not as bad as it sounds. The program changed me. Maya doesn't want to destroy us. She wants us to understand. Back at headquarters, Maya addressed a room full of investors. A French executive leaned forward, puzzled. Why not punish them completely? Maya answered with a soft smile. Because transformation doesn't come from punishment. It comes from understanding. 1 year after the will reading, Maya inaugurated the Richard Whitmore Institute for Social Equity. The audience included scholarship students, employees, and unexpectedly Christina, Logan, and even Trevor, seated humbly in his intern uniform. Maya stood beside her mother, now glowing with pride, and declared, prejudice isn't defeated by shaming the prejudiced. It's defeated when we rebuild the systems that created them and give them a reason to see the world through someone else's eyes. The revolution didn't end with Maya inheriting the empire. It began when she gave it back. This story isn't just about inheritance, it's about redefinition. It shows us that real leadership is not defined by last names or luxury suits, but by courage, clarity, and compassion. Maya Jefferson didn't simply receive a company, she transformed its soul. She stood before a family that mocked her existence and chose not vengeance, but vision. Through her actions, she redefined power as the ability to heal what was broken, to return what was stolen, and to lift those who had been silenced. The greatest lesson here is that you don't need billions or boardrooms to make change. You just need to start where you are with what you know is right. Maya's silence wasn't weakness, it was strategy. Her grace wasn't submission, it was power. If you've ever been overlooked, laughed at, or made to feel invisible, let this story remind you, your dignity is not theirs to decide. And if you hold privilege, this is your invitation to listen, to act, and to rebuild the world you inherited into something just. Now it's your turn. Speak up when you witness injustice. Hire based on character, not connections. Challenge the norms that reward arrogance and punish empathy. Share this story not for shock, but for awakening. Because true transformation begins not when the system changes, but when we choose to change with it. What will you do differently starting today? Let this be your moment. Let this be the spark.